Hi, I'm Bruce Lourie, President of the Ivy Foundation. The province of Quebec in Canada has a long history of working with social finance and creative social innovation. This stems from work with the labor movement and then got translated into work on environmental issues and most recently the complex challenge of Indigenous reconciliation. The McConnell Foundation has been one of the leaders in Canada, helping build social innovation and social finance capacity. And one of the questions that we're looking at today is, how can we expand the use of social finance tools in Canada to take on challenging problems like climate change and economic Indigenous reconciliation?
In 2015, Canada signed the Paris Climate Accord. To meet its targets, serious changes will have to be made to how Canadians travel, heat their buildings, and manufacture products. Moving to a low-carbon economy will require new investment, but so far, banks and financial institutions have been slow to invest.
Financial organizations, their bottom line is clear, is you want to maximize the financial returns on investment. And when you're trying to solve wicked social and environmental issues, maximization of a financial return cannot be your principal motive.
In Canada, the province of Quebec has been one of the pioneers in impact investment. It is the largest province in the country, with a population of 8 million. The labor movement is strong, and 35 years ago, it became a major social investor.
You know, we started in the early 80s, at the beginning of Reaganism and Thatcherism, where we were being told that communities and citizens shouldn't get involved in the economy, that it was enterprises that were going to create wealth, it was going to trickle down. That didn't work. And so we started to experiment with all kinds of new ways of doing things. It wasn't called social finance, it wasn't called impact investment, but that in fact is what we were doing. And this movement was really, came out of social movements taking on directly the issue of economic development and defining themselves as economic actors, but with another kind of logic than, the maximization of profit.
Over the last 30 years, Quebec's labor movement and pension funds have invested billions of dollars in creating financial institutions dedicated to social enterprise.
You've had cooperatives and financial institutions that have decided to lend and invest in things that matter to communities. So whether it's affordable housing, whether it's renewable energy, again, where we've had a long-standing history, whether it's Aboriginal institutions and businesses, we've had many examples of all of those throughout our history.
In 2013, the Quebec government created a new opportunity for impact investing. The cap-and-trade system is designed to reduce Quebec's greenhouse gas emissions to levels below 1990 by the year 2020. It focuses on industries which emit more than 25,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. The government auctions off emission licenses. Each unit is worth 1 ton of carbon dioxide emissions. Companies buy the units, but they can also be sold to investors and speculators. The money raised by the licenses is given to the Quebec Green Fund, which invests in clean energy initiatives. At the end of each year, companies must have enough emission licenses to cover all the carbon dioxide they've sent into the air. Companies that have gone over their limit can buy carbon licenses from companies who have polluted less than expected. Bertrand Fous of Co-op Carbone has been inviting financial institutions to invest in this new carbon market.
They didn't know what carbon market was. There was no data, no previous data on which they could rely to analyze risks.
But one of the labor funds was interested, Fonds d'Action CSN.
They were ready to spend time to understand the context, the carbon market itself, the risk, the issues, everything. They took time.
Coop Carbone and Fonds d'Action worked together to create a new kind of fund for the carbon market. Money is loaned to companies that want to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. The loan pays for new green technologies. Emissions go down, so there are now unneeded carbon licenses. These are used to pay back the loan. It's a new financial tool for the carbon market.
It's been 20 years now that we talk about, being serious against climate change, and the emissions are still rising in the world, still flattening in the West. So we're not solving the issue right now. So we need more financial tools. We deeply need it.
The carbon market now includes California. It is the world's first international cap-and-trade system.
We've come to the conclusion over the past decade, or about a decade ago, that actually we can have much greater impact if we align our grant making and our investing and use both approaches to creating systemic change.
But change has been slow. Of the 59 foundations making impact investments in Canada, only a handful have been directed at environmental initiatives.
Any foundation that is looking to address a big environmental issue, for example, can't be only using 5% of their assets. None of us would be comfortable with that if we were addressing a big issue. You'd want to bring 100% of what you can bring to the table. And so with social finance, you can look at the 5% of your assets and the 3.5%, whatever proportion you may use on the granting side, but also the 95% plus on the investment side.
It's a very exciting time because, I've been at this for over 30 years. As I said, we were crazy people when it began. Then we were nice people, but very marginal. And then we started to grow, but I think we're really on the edge of scaling up to an extent that hopefully will help us start shifting the development paradigm, because we have no choice.
We have several questions. How can Canada and Quebec build a movement across Canada to make social innovation and social finance more effective? And how can we start to build the capacity to support the skills and to connect those to regulatory markets and to mainstream finance? And ultimately, how can we make all of this more effective if we're going to take on the tough challenges of Indigenous reconciliation and climate change?